And Holly Williams is joining us now on the phone from the front lines in northern Iraq. Holly, what more have you learned about these atrocities committed by ISIS throughout the Mosul battle that have led the UN to investigate?
Right. Well, they're unconfirmed reports at the moment, and they've been received by the United Nations. There's certainly horrendous stories. One of them suggests that 50 police officers were killed in Mosul since this offensive began. Another that 70 civilians were murdered in their own homes in a village near the city. And there's another report that 3 women and 3 children were killed when they lagged behind on some kind of forced march. So truly terrible stories, but they've all allegedly happened in ISIS territory. So, of course, we can't confirm them, and nor can the United Nations. But we know that ISIS has carried out mass executions, it's carried out massacres. In fact, it sometimes even bragged about them. So as the group loses more territory, and as we see more refugees start to emerge, I think we're going to hear more of these horror stories.
Holly, refugees are often people without a country. The people that you have spoken to, do they believe that once this offensive is done, that they can return back to Iraq?
Well, most of them are still in Iraq. They've been displaced internally. And, like most refugees, they very much want to return home as long as it's safe. But this battle for Mosul is expected to rage for months. That's the first problem. The second one is, and we've seen this firsthand over the last week, even when towns and villages are retaken from ISIS, when Iraqi and Kurdish forces go into those towns and villages, they find them rigged up with homemade explosives inside buildings, inside people's homes. They're booby traps. They're there as a deadly surprise when people try to go back to their homes. So before those refugees can return, all of those homemade explosives need to be either detonated or de-rigged.
And Holly, this fight to end ISIS will soon shift to Raqqa. How will that impact the overall fight against the terror group in Syria and also the offensive to take back Mosul?
Well, one assumes it's going to make it more complicated. But remember, ISIS thrives on chaos. It was born of the deep divisions here in Iraq. It spread into Syria during that country's bloody civil war, which, of course, is ongoing. And it's pretty hard to fight a group like ISIS when your country's falling apart, when you don't have a functioning government or a functioning military. Here in Iraq, we've seen the U.S. Had to retrain the Iraqi military. It's had to bring different groups and factions together to broker deals in order to make this Mosul offensive actually happen. Now, the Defense Secretary, Ash Carter, says that there could be another offensive to retake Raqqa, the so-called ISIS capital in Syria, within a matter of weeks. That's going to involve bringing these different Syrian rebel groups together, some of which hate each other and are fighting each other. And that's before we even start to think about the Syrian regime and its allies.
Holly Williams reporting from Iraq. Thank you, Holly.
It's interesting. This is part of what Secretary of Defense Ash Carter and President Obama called those 3 R's, raids, Ramadi, and Raqqa. And we've seen the Iraqis take back Ramadi. Now they're going after Raqqa, and those encompass the raids that are happening now to take Mosul.
I'm wondering exactly when that'll happen. I think in the coming weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.